Hello, Gem Hunter. Today you're going to see 3 gems that you can find in the rivers near you. So if you've ever been to a stream, a beach, or even an old river full of gravel that has long since dried up, you should know that all of these places are great for finding gemstones. In case you didn't know, there are hundreds of types of gemstones that can be found in rivers. That's why we're only going to focus on these 3 particular gems today, so that you can find your first gem and maybe even sell what you find for good money. So the first step is to get to know the characteristics of these 3 stones that you can find, especially if your goal is to sell these gems in the future. And even if identifying a gemstone seems complicated, don't worry, this video is designed to take you through a complete step-by-step process so that anyone can apply these tips, even if they've never done it before. But why look for gems in rivers? Well, if you want to be successful in your search, you should know that these places are rich in gravel, with rounded pebbles that accumulate over time and become filled with various minerals, including gemstones. These stones can be found in a variety of environments, from roadsides to small streams, large rivers, dry rivers, and even on the beach. All of these places hold the potential for finding some kind of gem. What would it be like to find a topaz, ruby, or diamond in the gravel of a river? In what form do these stones usually appear in this environment? Since we're going to focus on these 3 gems today, it's important to know how to identify them in their natural state before you begin your search in the river. After all, stones in nature are very different from the cut gems we usually see. They have irregular shapes and surfaces, and you must be able to recognize these characteristics in order to distinguish them from other minerals when you find them directly in nature. The first gemstone we'll explore is topaz. This gemstone is well known, especially when set in high-end jewelry, where the brilliance and intensity of the colors, especially the vivid blue, attract a lot of admiration. Anyone who has heard of topaz is probably familiar with the famous Swiss blue or London blue, which are the most desirable and valuable shades of blue on the jewelry market. In nature, however, blue topazes are quite different. Their natural hue is pale and subtle, a far cry from the deep blue we see in jewelry. This detail is what causes many collectors and novices to pass by a topaz without realizing its value. Topazes found in rivers generally have a rounded appearance, the result of natural wear from water and sediment. Their edges are lightly polished and the stone's exterior is dull, a striking contrast to its crystalline interior. And it is this characteristic, an opaque exterior but a translucent or even transparent core, that sets topaz apart from other minerals, if you know what to look for. An important characteristic is that the more crystalline the interior of the topaz, the higher its value on the market. This is because cutting can reveal its inner brilliance, transforming an ordinary-looking opaque stone into a magnificent gem. In addition, although colorless or very pale topazes are also valuable, they usually have a lower value, especially when compared to vividly colored topazes. Among the most valuable varieties, light blue topaz is highly sought after, but there are also orange, pink, and even reddish shades that are even rarer and more desirable. A well-known example of a valuable topaz is the imperial topaz, which is famous for its intense color, ranging from golden yellow to reddish pink. It is so rare and special that it attracts collectors and jewelers from around the world. However, in order for topaz to achieve the deep blue we see in jewelry, it must undergo heat treatment. This treatment is a delicate process in which the stone is exposed to high temperatures in special furnaces, which intensifies and even modifies its natural color. This technical process gives the topaz a stronger blue color, and depending on the intensity of the blue obtained, it can be classified as Swiss blue, a specific shade of lighter and more vivid blue, or London blue, a darker and deeper shade of blue. In order to recognize a topaz in its raw state, it is important to know how to distinguish it from quartz, a very similar stone, but more common in riverbeds. Quartz, which belongs to a large family of minerals, comes in a variety of colors and shapes and is more opaque and less refined in texture than topaz. An easy way to tell the difference between quartz and topaz is to note that while topaz has a more intense luster on the inside and is more resistant to wear, Rolled quartz generally has a matte appearance throughout. This is because topaz is harder and therefore more durable, while quartz wears more easily. Another useful tip for distinguishing between these stones is density and weight. Topaz is naturally denser than quartz. If you hold them in your hand, you'll notice that a topaz is about 30% to 40% heavier than a quartz of the same size. This is an important distinction, especially for the beginner, as the stones may look similar, but this difference in weight can indicate a piece of greater value. For a more accurate analysis, you can perform a simple density test at home using a precision scale. This test involves measuring the weight of the stone dry, then submerging the stone in water, and measuring the weight again. Dividing the initial weight by the submerged weight gives the relative density value. It's easy to see that the density of topaz is significantly higher than that of quartz. Topaz is a mineral composed of aluminum fluoride and silicate, and is found in various parts of the world, including China, the United States, Russia, and Mexico. In Brazil, especially in the Minas Gerais region, we find some of the largest and most crystalline topazes in the world. Topaz mining there is mostly done by artisanal miners, partly due to government restrictions aimed at protecting local indigenous tribes and preserving the environment. As far as durability is concerned, topaz is quite robust, registering an 8 on the Mohs scale, which makes it almost as resistant as sapphire. And knowing how to identify these nuances can really make a difference to the natural gemstone hunter. Now let's talk about rubies and how to identify them in a river. To make this task easier, here's a surefire tip. Use an ultraviolet flashlight. These flashlights, which emit a purple light, are the same ones used to identify counterfeit banknotes and are affordable and very useful for finding rubies. Rubies have a special characteristic. They react intensely to ultraviolet light, taking on a strong pink, almost fluorescent glow. This happens even with rubies that are darker or brownish in color. So if you find a stone that looks red, dark, or with a reddish tinge, test it with ultraviolet light. If the stone is a ruby, it will have this intense pink glow, which is a very reliable confirmation. In a previous video, we did this test with a black ruby, which has a naturally darker hue, and it also reacted to ultraviolet light, showing a bright red glow. This reaction occurs due to the presence of certain chemical elements that are activated under ultraviolet light, making the test a great way to identify rubies among other red stones. To perform this test in the field, gather some gravel in a dark place. This could be in dense shade or under cover. Turn on the ultraviolet flashlight and look at the stones. Those that are rubies will show the characteristic pink or red color, while other stones will remain unchanged or show different colors. Another interesting detail about rubies is that they are related to sapphires. Both stones are varieties of the mineral corundum, which means that if you find rubies in a certain place, there's a good chance you'll also find sapphires. Rubies and sapphires share a similar mineral structure and differ mainly in color, which is the result of the presence of different trace elements. Therefore, any discovery of rubies in a river can be a strong indication that sapphires are nearby, especially if the geological conditions are favorable. Knowing this makes identifying rubies in stream gravels much more practical and efficient. Let's move on to the much-desired diamonds that can be found in rivers. They have unique characteristics, especially when compared to diamonds mined directly. So it's important to know what to look for so as not to confuse them with other stones. First, although diamond is the hardest mineral in existence, it is also susceptible to minor wear and tear over time, especially in rivers where constant friction with water and other stones can reduce its size. For this reason, diamonds found in rivers tend to be smaller and have a more rounded shape, slightly polished by natural erosion, as opposed to diamonds from mines, which have a more irregular and pointed shape. When looking for a diamond, don't be fooled by clarity alone. Not all diamonds you find will be as white and clear as those seen in jewelry. On the contrary, most natural diamonds have a light color, usually with yellowish or grayish tones. There are even diamonds in colors like brown or black. In fact, there is a color scale to classify the value of diamonds. Where the lighter and more transparent they are, the more valuable they tend to be. But keep in mind that colored diamonds can also be valuable, depending on their hue and rarity. Another important detail is size. River diamonds tend to be small, usually smaller than a dime. Any large stone is unlikely to be a diamond, so do not expect to find a huge stone, as larger diamonds are more likely to come from quarries than riverbeds. For a more accurate identification, also look at the weight and brilliance. Diamonds are relatively heavy, but when in doubt, you can perform the water sandpaper test. This test involves rubbing the stone on coarse sandpaper and seeing if there is any damage or if the stone releases a white powder. Only diamond, due to its extreme hardness, will pass this test without damage or residue. This distinguishes diamond from other stones such as topaz, which is more susceptible to scratches. River diamonds often have a peculiar luster known as metallic luster, which combines transparency with a strong reflection, especially in lighter stones. This unique luster helps distinguish a diamond from other stones such as quartz, which is usually duller and does not have this characteristic metallic luster. To increase the chances of correctly identifying a diamond, it's useful to have comparison stones such as quartz crystals, topazes, or even rough rubies. These are more accessible and allow you to have a visual and tactile reference against which to compare the stones found in nature. Now let's understand where and how to find gemstones in nature. To do this, it is important to understand how these stones are formed, because their origin lies deep within the Earth's crust, where ordinary minerals are subjected to intense conditions of heat and pressure. After millions of years, these minerals are brought to the surface by geological processes such as volcanic activity, tectonic movement, and erosion. Alluvial deposits, areas where sediments are deposited by the action of rivers and streams, are privileged places to find gemstones. When exploring streams and riverbeds, look for small fragments of rock with unusual colors and patterns. These indicators may indicate the presence of gemstones in the area. So follow these 4 practical tips. First, look for more interesting rocks. Look for rocks that are shiny, translucent, or colored, and that are hard enough to scratch a penknife blade, as these characteristics may indicate a valuable gemstone such as diamonds. Second, start your exploration downstream and work your way up the river, looking for fragments of heavy, dark, and metallic stones, such as chromites and ilmenites. These minerals are interesting for locating possible larger deposits. Third, explore side streams and creeks. Even if they are dry or seasonal, they can also be rich in sediment and gemstones. And the 4th step is to wear polarized glasses, because polarized lenses help you see what's under the water better, reduce glare, and make it easier to see the stones. In many rivers, you'll find a variety of common stones, such as pebbles and gravel, which are generally small, rounded, and smooth. But in the middle of this gravel can be precious stones. And when you begin to find gemstones, look for the following characteristics to identify them. Color and clarity. Gemstones come in a wide variety of colors, which is one of the first clues as to the type of gemstone. Luster and hardness. Gemstones often have a glassy or even metallic luster and are harder than ordinary rocks. The hardness test, for example, can help distinguish between minerals. Ultraviolet light test. Some minerals react to ultraviolet light by changing color or glowing brightly, making identification easier. But if you like this subject and feel the need to go further, to have this knowledge in the palm of your hand, check out our ebook, Gemology for Beginners, at the first link in the description. In it, you'll find a detailed dictionary of minerals with descriptions of their characteristics, making it easy to identify both precious and semi-precious stones. This material is perfect for those who are just starting out and want to deepen their knowledge of gemology. In addition, there are many other mysteries about gemstones found in nature, such as rubies and diamonds, that deserve to be explored in more detail. And to learn even more about these minerals and understand what can really enrich you, watch the next video that's about to appear on your screen. Thanks for liking and subscribing to the channel. Good luck, Gem Hunter. See you next time.